Bob Watkins. Today we have with us three fellows who have the enviable prize of having won a state championship in basketball in Kentucky, which is the equivalent of an NBA championship in some ways to others who have never even gotten the state tournament. James Haire's team won the first state tournament of a new millennium, and Don Morris won the state tournament. His team won the state tournament in 1965. And Larry's came from nowhere, we kind of say, in 1981, right? So they're all state tournament champions, and my own experience tells me that, boy, to win the state title is really extraordinary. You have to be lucky and good too, and then lucky again all the way through. And I noticed some of the scores. I think your games, the easiest game you had was the last game.
It was the final.
Yeah, so we'll get back to that in a few minutes. But anyway, I want to introduce James Haire, Don Morris. James Haire at Elizabethtown, Don Morris at Breckinridge County, and Larry was at Simon Kenton at the time. So why don't you tell us something about yourself, your background, James?
Well, my parents were in the military. I had two loving parents. We moved around quite a bit until I got about the fourth grade. We came to Elizabethtown, and spent my entire life from then on here. Got an opportunity to watch some great Elizabethtown teams. Back then, for me, was to didn't watch a lot of pro ball, college ball. I watched E-Town Panthers play. And when my older brother became a Panther, I became so in tune with them. I thought they were it. And I dreamed of the day of playing for the Panthers, and got the opportunity to do so when I got in high school. I had a really lucky opportunity to play with my older brother, who was a senior, and I became a freshman. And it saw them go to the state championship final game. And before then, I didn't know anything about state championship or state tournaments. And I got to see that, and that right there really had a huge impact on me as a young boy. And then I got to play with Coach Wenzel. And Coach Wenzel, he taught me a lot about basketball, but he taught us all how to be a man and how to be responsible. I have so many different people that have a positive influence on me. My mother and my father, the utmost, respect for them. And then when my father passed away when I got out of college, my mother took the head of the household. It sounds like there's so much of me been influenced by women. I've had her, I had, my sister, my wife, and her sisters, and her mother, and all have had a positive and supportive impact upon me. I have been very fortunate to be the head coach of Elizabethtown. And you're talking to you look at a person who didn't really want to be a head coach. I just wanted to coach. I never had dreams of being a head coach or anything. I really thought, at a young age, I'd be a professional football player, and that didn't work out. But I've had nothing but the utmost respect for everybody in the community. I've been fortunate to coach against and coach with some magnificent coaches. I feel, like I said the other night, I feel somewhat embarrassed being here because, I've been around, like these two guys here, they're legends, and I'm just a person who just fell into an opportunity. And I very appreciate the opportunity to have coached the state championship team and be around some wonderful guys, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, I'll come back to that later. I have some questions for you about that. Larry, what about you? Tell us your background.
Well, I was born in White Mills, Kentucky, about 6 miles across the fields here. I don't know when I got interested in basketball. I don't remember not wanting to play, and I had a goal tacked up on the barn. The barn door was pretty high, so the goal had to be about 10'6" so we could open the door and close it. But I remember running up the wall and trying to dunk off of that, and having games there with kids. And of course, the ground was rough. You couldn't dribble it very well, but you could shoot it. We had gravel on one side and dirt on the other. And when it got wet, it was muddy, and but I always wanted to play. But I guess I really got hooked on it when Albert McLean came to Linville High School as a basketball coach about 59 or 60, and he started a Little League basketball program. And I was in, I think, the 5th grade, and I played there for him, and I really liked his style, and I decided probably at that time that I wanted to be a basketball coach. And I went to West start in high school. Got out of there and was not good enough to get a scholarship, and went to ECC, Community College here in Elizabethtown. Fortunate that after the first year there, they started a basketball program. So I played on that team, was pretty successful, and got a scholarship to Jacksonville State University in Alabama. After my, if it hadn't been for that, I probably wouldn't have had a college education because I didn't have the money to get it, and it would have been hard. I probably would have worked for it and got it, but it had been more difficult. So I played there for 2 years, and I got out and I went into, I didn't get a teacher certificate because I didn't think I wanted to teach at the time. I worked for a year at a factory in Elizabethtown, Celotex Corporation, and then decided that that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wasn't happy there. So I went back and got my teaching certificate and looked for a coaching job. Went to work in Muhlenberg County at a small Drakesboro High School for 2 years. Applied for jobs coaching jobs across the state, and usually the first question that I got was, "Where's Drakesboro?" So I knew at that point that I had to work somewhere else if I wanted to get a head coaching job. So I took a job at Breckenridge County as a freshman coach. Left there after 1 year and went to Frankfort as assistant coach. Worked 1 year there and got a head coaching job at Simon Kitten High School. And been influenced by a lot of people. There were some good coaches in this area when I was growing up. Hardin McLean, who was Albert's brother, was Elizabethtown Catholic, had some great teams. Jack Goodman was just up the road here at Glendale, and then East Hardin had some really good teams in this area. And I hate to make Donnie feel like he's older than me, but I remember listening to the radio to your games in the state tournament, and I remember Butch Beard fouling out on Saturday morning against Hazard, I believe, and Hazard was the top team in the state, and I turned the radio off. I mean, I was sick. I remember going out and started shooting because this game is over. You know, I've been following you all along, and then somebody called me and said they won. They won. I said, "What? They couldn't have won. Butch Beard fouled out." You know? But they did, and so there was a lot of good coaches in this area. I remember standing in line at Elizabethtown High School to get into the district and regional tournaments. Back then, if you didn't get there at 5:30, 6 o'clock, you didn't get into the games. And TK Stone was a pretty good sized gym in those days, and still, you had to be in line. So this was a good basketball area, had some good coaches, and got to see a lot of good games. So
well, that's a good segue to coach here, Hall of Fame coach Don Morris. How'd you ever get into basketball?
Well, Bob, I don't have a great story, and I'm certainly
story's a great story.
James alluded to as a legend. I'm certainly no legend. I'm just a little boy from the country that had a good stroke of luck and had a great passion for the game of basketball. I guess you would say the one person that had a great influence on my life was my aunt. My mom and dad lived in Louisville at the time, and I was born in my aunt's house. My mom happened to be visiting her
In Upton?
And I was born at Alva Humes' house. It wasn't planned that way, but that's the way it worked out. And then she had a great impact on my life, the rest of my life. However, my great passion for basketball, I think, really started when I was a little boy, listening to the Fabulous Five on the radio. You know, Ralph Beard and Lou Groza and Wawa Jones and Rollins and Dale Barstable and that group. The radio had so much static on it. I'd have to lie down on the floor and I'd put my ear right against the radio to be able to decipher out the game from the static. But boy, what a team to listen to, and what a broadcaster to listen to, and that's where my passion was developed, right there, listening to the Fabulous Five. And then I went to elementary school at Upton. We didn't have any gym, but we played basketball. We played basketball all year long at Upton when I was in elementary school. When it would snow or when it rained, that didn't stop us. We'd go outside and we'd play basketball, and we'd put our toboggan on, pull down over our ears. We'd put our gloves on to keep our hands warm. When it rained so much that most people said, "There's no way you can play basketball." We put our galoshes or overshoes on, and we would play out there, and it'd be so muddy at times that you'd stay where you were because your feet would be stuck in the ground with the mud and the galoshes on. And that's how we learned to pass the ball, because we couldn't dribble. But we played, Laurie Bashears and Jimmy Wood and I, we played basketball all the time, rain or snow, sleet, whatever. Only thing that kept us from playing was lightning. The one thing that I got introduced to with Sonora was we would get to go to Sonora once a week and play in the gym.
Wow.
We had a great principal who allowed us. In fact, he would take us. He would take us to Sonora, and we get to play in Sonora's gym once a week. Then we go to Magnolia and play a basketball game. They had that little small gym with a stove in the corner of the gym, what I call a potbelly stove, so it was a real treat and a joy to get in the gym to play. Then I did go to Sonora High School, and what a joy that was. That was a treat because I got to play in the gym every day. Got to play in the gym every day at Sonora. I was very, very fortunate in that I didn't have much competition in high school, so I got to start for 4 years. If I'd had much competition, I probably wouldn't start any. But I started 4 years, and I wasn't an outstanding player at all. I wasn't a very good scorer, but the one thing I could do, I could play defense. So I guess that was by far my greatest contribution to the team was the coach, Henderson Wilson, who was starting his career at Sonora as a basketball coach, and he coached Loy and myself, and he put me on the best guard on the other team. That was my defensive assignment, was I would always guard the best guard on the other team. And I wouldn't score many points, but I did develop a great passion for playing defense. I think that carried on over when I was fortunate enough to become a basketball coach. Defense was my main emphasis as far as coach was concerned. But I developed the desire to become a basketball coach when I was about 6th grade. My mom and dad want me to go to college, and obviously I wanted to go to college. But I wanted to go to college to get my degree to become a basketball coach. They want me to go to college to either be a doctor or a lawyer. So the first year I was in college at Western University up on the hill, I was going to be a doctor or a lawyer and didn't know for sure which. I was going to make my mind up later on. But I already had my mind made up. Down deep, I had a passion since I was in 6th grade. I wanted to be a basketball coach. Dellert Moore was our principal at Sonora, and we were fortunate in that Dellert would take the basketball team to the state tournament. We'd stay all week. We'd stay up to the state tournament all week, and Dellert would stay with us. And as I developed my passion listening to the Fabulous Five, then it grew as Dellert would take us to the state tournament, and we'd have an opportunity to watch the entire state tournament. I got to see that King Kelly Coleman when he had that fabulous state tournament and scored all the points that he did. I got to see the great Ashland team when Larry Conley and Sargent and Miller and that group played. I got to see Austin Dumas when he made that last second shot. I forget now exactly how it went. I had it written down what actually took place, and I have to do that because my memory has gotten kind of short. But in that particular game, when I was fortunate enough to get to go to the state tournament, see, I believe it was Breathitt County that they were playing. It was 1961. Austin Dumas tipped in the score to tie the score with less than a minute to go against Breathitt County. And then Breathitt County went ahead in 54-53 on a free throw. And then Dunbar called timeout with 6 seconds left. They were at the far end of the floor. Austin Dumas received the inbounds pass. He dribbled to the midcourt line, and he didn't throw the ball. He didn't heave it. He made a one-hand shot from the midcourt line. As time expired, the ball was in the air. And nothing but the bottom of the net, and they won by 1 point, Breathitt County. I thought that was one of the most outstanding last shots that I'd ever seen until I saw Paul Andrews do the same thing against North Hardin, against in the state tournament. There's 3 seconds left, and Paul Andrews takes 3 dribbles, and he shoots behind the midcourt line, where Austin Dumas shot at the midcourt line. Paul Andrews shoots about 3 or 4 steps behind the midcourt line, and obviously the buzzer went off as the ball was in the air. He hits a shot and beats North Hardin 53-51. That was in the finals of the state tournament.
Yeah.
So those are the things that happened for me to really, I guess you fanned the flames that got started when I was listening to the Fabulous Five.
Good. Let me take you back, James, to I think the first time I ever saw you was, didn't you start as a sophomore on this town?
I started a few games as a freshman also.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, the first time I became aware of you, and I wonder if you remember this, was the district finals, I think, at E-Town, and West Hardin was on the verge of an upset, as I recall, and you got an offensive rebound, I think.
Right.
Take us through that play. This got to be one of your top memories, I would think.
Well, it's up there. You know, I was very fortunate to get to play basketball. I always felt lucky to play.
Yeah.
West Hardin had a great game plan. We had a tremendous team. Randy Hampton was one of our seniors, and been playing with these guys forever. And West Hardin slowed the ball down against us, and we were, I think, averaging. This is a 43-point line. We were upper 70, lower 80 points a game. They slowed the ball down against us and had an opportunity to win. I think either the score was tied or
no, they were up one.
might have been up one.
Yeah.
And we got the ball back, a few seconds left, and took a shot, and I got the rebound, put it back in, and that's about all I really remember. I know we won.
Well, it's over in front of your bench, as I recall. You got the rebound, maybe took one dribble along the baseline,
Right.
put it back, and the place went crazy.
Right. You know, that's when the benches were underneath the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we you know, it was a good time. It was a good memory, and I'm glad we won. Got to go on a little bit further.
Yeah. Let me ask you, James, about as you ascended to become a coach. Now, you coached freshmen for a while.
Right.
Did you coach JV?
I've coached every level. I coached 7th, 8th, 9th, JV. I was at Elizabethtown for 13 years before I became a head coach. I started my career at East Hardin. I was the freshman coach under his brother, and
I forgot.
had a great time down there. And I came to Elizabethtown, and for 13 years I coached football, track, and basketball. Actually, in 1996, we won a state championship in track, and felt very fortunate to be with those guys. And like I said, I just wanted to coach. And then Gary French, me and him came to Elizabethtown at the same time. He was the head coach, and I was a freshman coach. And opportunity arose for me to move up, and I became his JV coach. And I said, all the while, you know, I didn't have aspirations of becoming a head coach. I wanted to coach sports, and I really wanted to be at Elizabethtown, because, like I said, this was a dream come true for me. Because, you know, even now, when I see a past E-Town player, you know, that I grew up watching, you know, I'll see him in Kroger's and I'll stop, you know, kind of like in awe, and go over to, hey, but didn't you play it back in, you know, and we'll hold a conversation. It's so much nicer to see them now, because when I was small, they all seem so huge, and now they all seem kind of small. But you know, I have a good time with those guys, and I probably can remember every starting lineup since the day I came here in 1967. And because, like I said, those guys were pro athletes to me, and you know, I just admire them, and I really admire my older brother, because my older brother probably, you know, he was the oldest, I was the second oldest. He led all the rest of us into athletics. You know, this is unknown territory, because, you know, my father didn't push us. You know, he was a guy that kind of laid back, and the only thing he ever said to us after a game was, "Good game," or, "Hey man, tough luck." Never talked about the coach, never did anything. That's the way I thought all parents were until I started to coach. Yeah, but it's a little different. But my older brother, he was a 6'3" center, and we had a 6'11" person on our team, but he was a 6'3" center who was never said a word, just went out there and just played hard. He probably helped develop my personality, because he was a little bit more flamboyant than I am. He's much happy.
Not much.
Well, he's happy and laughs, and he's real loud.
Yeah.
Even now, I mean, loud. You know, but I know growing up, we used to play sports all the time. He'd always had this rule: hey, brothers can't be on the same team. So, and put me over here and let me develop. You know, instead of always being under his wing. That ain't why he did it. He just didn't want me on his team. So put me over here, and we had a good time growing up. I admired him. I know we played. The game that really stands out to me with him, because at his size, and this is why I push my players up. Because at his side, we played Betsy Lane. They had a 6'11" center. Yeah. And I saw him guard him. And like during the course of the game, Hall said something to him like, because Hall had a good first half.
Yeah.
And he said something to him like, hey man, you can't guard me. And my brother, as he's running on the floor, he told him, he said, you're not going to touch the ball again. You know, not that you're going to score. He told him, you're not going to touch the ball again. And I've never seen anybody work that hard on defense and blocking out and doing everything. And this kid never touched the ball again. And I tell my players that, you know, it doesn't take great athletic ability. It takes great determination. And, you know, and that's what that 2000 team had. They had great determination, and they were athletic. And they wasn't an easy group to coach either. And I talk about that to them all the time. They, you know, and they did exemplify everything that I saw in my brother that day. They did in the state tournament.
Well, I want again, that's a segue to what I want to talk about in terms of each of you all on your way to a state championship. I would be interested to know when you knew that you had something. I know in preseason you had like 4 starters back and that kind of thing, but I've always sensed, and you can confirm or deny, these kids seem to change about tournament time. They seem to kind of grow up. Somehow they become more mature, more smooth, or they don't. Some don't. Anyway, and each of you had an outstanding player at the core of your team, but when did you, let's start with you, Larry, when did you know that you had something with Simon Kenton?
When I took the job, Simon Kenton was a 3-year high school, 10, 11, and 12. And they had not won a district tournament game in 11 years. So there wasn't a lot of pride in the area there. But the assistant coach I had, thought I was going to have, he quit on me because he thought he was going to be the head coach. So I went over and got the freshman coach who was at the middle school at the time. And I said, would you like to? Yeah, I would. He said, we've got a good group coming. He said, you don't have anything in high school right now, I'll tell you, but said, we've got a good group of freshmen. So I went over there to watch them work out in the summertime, and we did. We had 3 kids about 6'3" as freshmen, and a couple of 3 guards that weren't bad. And he said, we've got a real good guard in the class behind them. That time they wouldn't let them play up, so he was playing back with some kids that weren't very good, but said, you know, we just got to work with them. So there was a lot of opposition the next year when they became sophomores to play them, because I had these seniors who couldn't play, who some of the parents couldn't hardly understand why their seniors should have to sit down so these sophomores could play. Yeah. And so it was not an easy time. It wasn't too bad with Troy McKinley, because he was so much better than everybody else that they pretty much accepted him. But the other 2 kids that I wanted to play, Meyer boy, he was always injured. He's a big, strong kid. Right now he's about 6'9". He's grown since high school, but at that time he was about 6'6", and as a sophomore he's about 6'5", and a big, strong kid, about 220. But he was always injured, and I'd play him a while and he'd get hurt, and so he was in and out, and I had quite a bit of trouble getting in play. And the Dixon kid who came on as a junior, in fact he scored more points in a single game than McKinley did. He didn't really mature. His mother started him early. He was graduating from high school. He was barely 17 years old. So had some opposition to that, but I played him anyway. McKinley started every time, Myers every time he could. And then I had the three little guards who at this point were sophomores and freshmen, and they had changed and put freshmen in the high school at that time. And I played those 3. I called them bumblebees. And I'd have those 3 come in, and their job was just to harass. When they double team, they press. We just go into a press mode, and that gave me an opportunity to play them 5-6 minutes a game when they were sophomores, and then again as juniors, because I did have a couple of pretty decent guards as seniors. So really only started the 3 big kids as juniors. McKinley started all 3 years, but you could see McKinley was special. He would shoot 65% for the season, but he was slow. He wasn't a great defender. He wasn't going to create his own shot. You had to get him a shot. But I mean, he could stroke it. Best stroke I've ever had. And somebody was talking last night about changing a kid's shot, and that was McKinley. When I first saw him, he shot the ball right over his forehead, and I mean, he was odd looking. And I told the coach that we got to change him. He said, no, we'll let him shoot for a while before he decided to change his shot. He just kept stroking. And he still got that shot today. Still an odd shot, but he ended up playing at the University of Kentucky, so he's a good player. But those kids, the big kids developed early, and but the guards, the three little guards that I used, they didn't start until they were seniors and junior. The one kid was behind them. He was a junior. When we got Northern Kentucky, it's kind of, you would think it's more, it is metropolitan because of Cincinnati, but the Northern Kentucky area, those people, they don't say they're from Kentucky. They say they're from Northern Kentucky. And they stay together. They don't go far. And you didn't have to go far to get a schedule because we had 23 high schools within 15 miles.
Just the ninth region?
It's really, the ninth region at the time. Of course, it's split up now. So they didn't, my athletic director didn't want to go out, didn't want to play teams, didn't want to travel. So I had to fight that, and we played, and we tried to get McKinley and those people to places where other people would see them. Because if everyone getting attention, they had to get away from that area because nobody down here knows much about Northern Kentucky.
Yeah.
They go through it on the way to see the Cincinnati Reds play, and that's about it. And it's really a nice area and great schools up there.
They're more rural than people think.
Yes, Simon Kenton was a rural school. I mean, it was farmland. It's not today. It's really grown up. But in that time, all around the school was farms. They were cattle. You could see cattle out your window when you were teaching there. It was all over. So I took them to different places. We played in tournaments. We went to Somerset. We went to Frankfurt. We went several different tournaments around. Tried to get in the best tournaments that we could. And they developed a sense that they could play with some other people. We played Shelby County. Was in the state tournament that year. They beat us, but we played right with them. So those kids kind of got a sense that they could play. And then as the season moved along, we were winning a lot of games. We still lost some, but we were at 29-5 for the season. So we lost 5. 4 of them were in tournaments. And so we were playing well. And then when it got tournament time, the kids, I think McKinley decided he wanted to play in the state tournament. And if he had to, he'd do it by himself. But he'd liked everybody to help him. So we got in the second game of the district. We're down 2 points with 6 seconds to go, and the other team is at the free throw line shooting a 1-and-1. There are no 3-pointers in those days. So the kid makes one free throw, the game is over. Well, he missed the free throw. We get the rebound, throw it down. Kid banks one in at the buzzer, and we beat him in overtime. And I think at that point, those kids thought they could play. Thought they could, if we can come back from this. We'd also, I should mention too, most people in this area don't know, we had a blast. The school blew up.
A furnace.
It was actually a hot water heater.
Hot water.
This was in October, 3 days before, it was October 9th, about 5-6 days before the season practice started. And Cincinnati Gas and Electric was testing the lines to extend them, and the school, which was built in the 30s, was attached to the main line. And when they increased the pressure, it blew a valve off, and the pilot light blew. It filled up the small area where the hot water heater was, and it blew all over and killed a student, one of our students. And my room was just around the corner, but we happened to be at lunch, or we would have been involved, had some problem. But a couple of classes had to crawl out windows, and it smoke filled. The firemen came, they put out the fire, but the valve to turn off the gas had been paved over who knows when. Couldn't put out the gas, couldn't turn the gas off. So with the fire out, the whole building filled with gas. And then there was a spark, and then it really blew. And if the second explosion had been the first explosion, we would have lost hundreds, literally hundreds, because there's 1,000 or so kids in the building. And as it turned out, we only had one student. I mean, that's a lot, but
So this became a rally point for your basketball?
I think so. I think they rallied around that, and then when they came back to beat Walton Verona in the district tournament game, when we were beaten, then they really came together. And
Did you ever use the term team of destiny at all somewhere along the line?
Well, it's been used since then, but when you're living through things like that, we didn't reflect on it. It was just something that we had to do. We had to find other place to practice. We didn't have a gym. We had to find other place to practice and the like. But we didn't use that. But as the kids have reflected on it, I've talked to them. We've had several things go on here the last few years. They talked they said that they had talked about that.
Well, just look at the scores. games along the way, and the one you mentioned there, it would seem to be a real good headline. Simon Kenton, Team of Destiny.
Yeah,
In those
and it was used in those days.
Well, back to this. As you got to the state tournament, I'll ask you this too, both of you. Your kids, when you got them to Lexington, and they got past the first round must be really tough. Keep them at their attention, and they're not in their own beds anymore, and that kind of thing. How did you go about keeping your kids together and to survive the first round, which seems to be such a huge...
We didn't play till Thursday night late. We were the last game of the tournament.
Which is not good, right?
Not good.
Not good.
So we didn't go down. We didn't take a team down on Wednesday. I told them I don't want them down there. We were going to win the tournament. I said, you guys, if you want to go have a good time in the state tournament, you can go next year or the year after or whenever. But we're going down there to win the tournament. And that was a little brash probably, but I was young, didn't know any better.
But you didn't go down on Thursday.
I wrote it out. Well, every minute of the day what we were going to do through the championship game. And we went down Thursday about, in fact we went in and watched North Hardin and Owensboro play a half. Because those kids, if you remember now, this Rupp Arena was 2 years old at this time, 2 or 3 years old. There'd only been one state tournament in it. Lafayette had won the year or 2 years before, and then they moved back to Louisville in '80, and then they came back. So the kids, you couldn't get in to see a UK game. Those kids didn't have tickets for UK. Only been one state tournament there. Most of my kids had never seen Rupp Arena. So I just wanted to show it to them. I didn't want them to go in there and counting the lights, the first half, count the lights during North Hardin's game if you want to do that. So we went in, we watched a half, and we went over to the Continental Inn there in Lexington. We had dinner, and then we went to the game. And so they didn't have a lot of time, to get excited. And we were lucky in that we drew Knott County Central, who had upset Breathitt County. Now, we had scouted Breathitt County during the year because we'd scout all the teams we thought we might play in the state tournament because we had a nice team coming. We thought we'd get there. And Breathitt County was like 26-1, 28-1 or something, and they got upset in the finals of the region by Knott County Central. It was 17-15 or something. Yeah. So I think one of the big things to get through that first round is to get somebody you can beat that you don't have to play great. And the only one that really played well was McKinley, and McKinley had 28 points. And I remember the coach from Knott County Central said, I don't know if he can do it again, said I've never heard of him, and said he had 28 against us tonight, so I just don't believe he could do that again. Well, the next night against Todd May and Virgie, he had 39, so he could do it again, and again if he had to, But he played really well. Nobody else really played well. But we got by the first game really because Knott County Central wasn't that good.
Well, that's really interesting. I want to come to Don now. Now, Don has the unique thing here of having won in '65. You'd been on the finals in '64. Right. So you'd already been all the way through a state tournament. And how many kids did you have coming back for '65 that were on that team?
We only had one starter. We lost 4 starters on the '64 team.
Which makes your trip back, just to get back, amazing enough, let alone to win it, even with Butch Beer, right? Is that fair to say?
Right.
Okay, tell us what your preparation. Did you not take your kids up there? I think that's really smart. I wonder, have you gotten smarter over the years? Or?
No, I was smarter then, I believe.
Go ahead.
In order for me to do it justice, I've got to go in 1964 first. Yeah. Before we get to the '65, because I think that's where the real foundation was laid for my team as a whole. I guess I start off by saying that we in Breckinridge County did not have a newspaper and we did not have a radio, and people out in the state didn't know where we were, who we were, and could care less. So we knew by the time that the '64 season rolled around that we could have a good ball team, and so our desire was to get to the state tournament. In fact, that started with me when Delbert Moore started taking us to the state tournament. All 4 years, Charles, Delbert took us, the basketball team, to the state tournament. We stayed all week for the entire tournament. And I developed that great desire then, already knowing I wanted to be a basketball coach. But if I should ever get to be a basketball coach, I had the desire to take a team to the state tournament one time, just to take them to the state tournament. So that was what I was working towards in 1964, was to take our through that real quickly. We had a good ball club. We were 27 and we were 27-4 at the end of the season. We went to the state tournament, and the first team we played was Providence, and Providence was tough. They had a really, really strong ball club. They were physical. One of their players, his name was Copeland. He was a man among boys. And Butch being a black player, you think that, James, this might be kind of different to say, but he was black and blue all over at the end of the game. You could see the bruises all over him where they just absolutely beat him up one side and down another.
Yeah.
But Butch, I think, got 19 rebounds against him anyway. He hung there. I remember one particular rebound he got. We had a picture of it. He went up and he got a rebound with one hand. He curled the ball like this, and he was fending the guy off with the other hand. So Butch was a tremendous rebounder and a tremendous jumper. He had a 41-inch vertical jump. His greatest contribution to us was his rebounding and his passing to his teammates at the right place at the right time that they could score. So we beat Providence 67-58, and I mean that was a difficult game from beginning to end, and had not been for Butch's rebound determination, we never got out of it. Well, the next game we played was against Caldwell County. We had played Caldwell County in Christmas tournament during the season, and they had beat us in the Christmas tournament in Caldwell County. Greg Smith, the Smith brothers. Yes. His brother was Dwight was already playing at the University of Western at the time, but Greg Smith was on that team, and he had really played extremely well against us in the Christmas tournament. So we knew we was going to have to really have a good effort from our team to have a chance of beating them. In this particular game in the state tournament, Greg Smith did get 19 points, and Copeland got 18. Bird got 10. But the thing of it was with Caldwell County, they had a really good ball club, and they had a really good zone defense. And with 3 minutes and 50 seconds to go, the score was tied. And in this particular game, we was able to hold our own against their zone defense, but with the score tied, I decided that we needed to make them come out of their zone defense, because we were better against man-to-man than we were zone. We weren't a great outside shooting team. So we were going to bring the ball out, make them come out of their zone, and then we was going to go against their man-to-man. Well, that didn't work that way. They just would come out a token. You know, the referee would blow the whistle and motion for them to come out. So the guy would come out, he would get within guarding distance for about 5 seconds, then he'd back off again. So it was a token man just to the ball only. The rest of them was still staying in their zone defense. So make a long story short, with about 50 seconds to go, we still was holding the ball, and they were making their token defense. So called timeout, and I told them, I said, guys, we're going to take a last second shot. Now, the thing about the last second shot was, and this is unique within itself, we had practiced on the last second shot 3 days a week from the first day of practice until this particular moment, and never had an opportunity to use it. But my guys knew what play to run because we had worked on it all season long, but we hadn't had an opportunity to run it. So I told them, I said, guys, we're going to take a last second shot. You know exactly what to do. We've been working on it all year. We've been working on it 3 days a week for the entire season. Went back out. We executed it to perfection. We should have as many times as we'd gone through it.
Who hit the shot?
Butch Beard hit a 10-foot baseline shot. Leonard Poole drove towards the keyhole to pull the defense in. That was the design of the play. Yeah. He sucked the defense in around the keyhole area because he'd already had a real good game. And then I enabled him to kick the pass off to Butch at the baseline. And Butch goes up. He shoots a 10-foot shot and gets fouled. And we had a picture of that where he got fouled. He hit the shot and put his 2 points up, and then he goes to the free throw line, and he hit the free throw with 1 second.
So it beat Caldwell.
It beat Caldwell County. And then the next game was against Allen County, and Jim Basil was a tremendous basketball coach. Had fabulous success. And Allen County had a really, really good basketball team. They had
now was this the quarterfinals?
we beat Caldwell County in the quarterfinals, and then well,
Saturday morning.
This was Saturday morning against Allen County. Weaver was a man among boys too. Norman Weaver. And then they had Rigdon, he later became the state patrolman for his career. Yeah. And in this particular game, Rigdon got 21 points and Weaver got 10. We had played an exceptionally good defense and fast break against Allen County, but the game was still close going into the fourth quarter. And make a long story short, Butch Beard got hurt about the middle of the fourth quarter and had to take him out and didn't go back into the game. We were fortunate in winning the game 66-56. As soon as the game was over, I sent my assistant coach with Butch Beard and instructed him to take him to the hospital to just check with the doctors to make sure that I would not jeopardize his future, because I knew he had a future for college ball. He was a junior that year. Yeah. And if he was going to jeopardize his career, I was not going to play him that night in the finals of the state tournament. If it was not going to jeopardize his career, then I was going to play him. That was simple as that. So we went back. I took the team back to the hotel, and this again was kind of intriguing. We were right across the hall at Phoenix Hotel, right across the hall from Seneca, and my players and Seneca's players had been socializing with each other, going to each other's room and talking and having the biggest time ever was all week long, having no idea or any phantom that we were going to play against each other. Yeah. But as it winds up, we're playing Seneca that night. So I take my team back to the hotel and I put them to bed. And then I post myself out in the hallway to make sure nobody comes out. Which and also I could see where Seneca was because they was right across the hall from us. Well, I kept waiting for Butch Beard to get back, and by the time we was ready for us to start packing up and going to Memorial Coliseum, Butch wasn't there. Well, I thought, well, surely he'll be here in a few minutes. So we go to Memorial Coliseum, we dress out, getting ready to go out on the floor, Butch's not there. We go out on the floor, we warm up, Butch is still not there. Needless to say, I was fit to be tied because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have cell phones back in those days, and I hadn't checked. So we go back to the dressing room that last 3 minutes before time for the game to start, and Butch walks in with my assistant coach, and Butch still had his uniform on. We played that morning. He hadn't been to the hotel. He'd gone straight from the gym, Memorial Coliseum, to the hospital. Still had his uniform on, so he's ready to play. But he wasn't ready to play. My assistant coach tells me that when he got into the hospital, the first thing the doctor did was give him a cortisone shot in his knee. Gave him a cortisone shot, he had a reaction, passed out. He was out cold about the whole time that he was in the hospital.
So he got a good nap.
He got a good nap. He got a good nap, but he didn't recover from it. Because when he got to the dressing room, I said, Butch, how are you? He said, well, I don't know, Coach. I don't feel too well, but I think I can play. I said, well, that's great. I'm glad you can be back here. He said, doctor said he could go ahead and play, wouldn't jeopardize his career and so forth. So we went back out to the free throw line to shoot a few free throws before the game started. Butch shoots his first free throw, and it falls about 4 feet short of the goal. I mean, it like 4 feet getting to the goal. So, whoa, wait a minute. I said, Butch, what's going on? I said, Coach, I don't know. He said, I'm seeing 3 different goals up there, and I don't know which one to shoot at. I said, Butch, this doesn't look good. I don't think we're going to be able to play. Coach, I can play. Well, make a long story short, I played Butch for 5 minutes in that game against Seneca. Yeah. Seneca had Wesley Unseld 6'7". They had Garrison 6'9". They had Lyons at 6'8". They had Flug at 6'3", and the other guard was 6'2". Well, we were 5'7", 5'7" at forward. We were 5'8" and 5'10" at guard, and Butch Beard was 6'2". Now, we're not supposed to have a ghost of a chance against a team with that kind of difference in size. but we had developed a pretty good press. I'm proud to say that Johnny Wooden at UCLA was playing the 1-2-1-1 full court press. So we had developed the 1-2-1-1 full court press because Johnny Wooden was my idol. And I got every book that he had written. I went to every coaching clinic I could possibly attend where he was speaking at the coaching clinic. And so I tried to emulate everything I could in my coaching career from Johnny Wooden. So we were going to put the press on, do the best we could. 1-2-1-1. Make a long story short, Leonard Poole was playing the position that Butch Beard normally played, and that was the one position to mid-court line. They were going to throw the ball to Wesley Unseld, and he's just going to turn around and throw it down the floor. But Leonard stole the ball from Wesley Unseld 11 times. And with 3 minutes and something to go in the ball game, we were behind 3 points. And we had stayed in the game because of our press, stayed in the game because of our stealing the ball, and obviously by stealing the ball, we were able to get our fast breaks going. So we were able to get our shot and score before the big guys got down to defenses. Otherwise, we couldn't have possibly been in the game. We came down, and Leonard had a fabulous game defensively and offensively. In this particular game, we only had 2 offensive rebounds the whole ball game. And Leonard came down with us 3 points down, and he comes to the keyhole, which had been almost a certain 2 points for him. And he went up and he shot and he missed, and like to killed him. But he missed, and Chester Holloway got our 3rd offensive rebound. He gets the rebound and he goes up and he bricks it. And normally speaking, Chester had a real good game in the Seneca game. Chester wound up he had 16 points in that game, but he bricked it. And Seneca gets the rebound, throws the outlet pass out real quickly, and they get a wide open layup on the fast break on the other end. Now we're down 5 points. Had Leonard hit his shot at the keyhole, which had been a sure 2, or had Chester hit the shot when he rebounded, we would cut it down to 1 point, and we would have had the opportunity to put the press on. As it was, we were down 5, and my team that was a straw that broke camel's back. We wound up getting beat 10 points. Now, I say all that to say that's what really sparked the desire and the ambition to come back to the state tournament and win it. That's the first time that we had any inclination that we might be able to win a state tournament. We lost 4 starters, but I had Butch Beard back. In the Caldwell County game, I had Bob Ray Lyons and Cornell Payton and Homer Gray on the floor when we were holding the ball. They were juniors. Even though they weren't starters, they had a lot of experience in that 64 state tournament. So it's a little bit deceiving in that I lost 4 starters, but I had 3 other guys that had lots of experience of playing throughout the season and during the state tournament. So I guess you'd say that's where our real desire and spark to win the state tournament came about. It was in 64. So all summer long, we conditioned and we practiced, and we conditioned and we practiced. And in 65, we had 3-hour practices. Principal said you can practice when you want to, as long as you want to. Well, we practiced as soon as school's out. In the first hour and a half, we worked on nothing but fundamentals. The last hour and a half, we worked on our presses and our half-court offense. And we had a pretty good ball club going into the state tournament. The last game that we lost was against Mayo. And one of the coaches that I really looked up to and admired was Gene Rhodes. Gene Rhodes was coaching Mayo at that time. We played Mayo at Mayo, and we played them right down to the wire. In that particular ball game, we wound up getting beat 59-69. That's when they had George Tinsley, who was a super ball player. He got 15 points. Garrett Phelps, he got 18 points. Eugene Smith got 16 points. In that particular game, Butch got 24 and Bob Ray got 15 and Jay Harrington got 9. Now, the story about that game is Jay Harrington had not been starting all year long. Benny Patterson had been starting. But in that particular game, Jay Harrington came in off the bench He got 9 points against Mayo, and I felt like for the first time all year, and I was taking a chance because this was in late February. You know, a lot of people say you don't change your starting lineup that close to tournament time, and I took a chance. I put Jay Harrington in the starting lineup. Make a long story short, Jay Harrington it was responsible, a major responsibility for us being hazard in the state tournament. Jay went ahead and was on the all-state tournament team and had not made the starting lineup till last February. So I made a long story to tell you when we got the desire to win the state tournament, when we thought we could win the state tournament. It's a year before we started playing again.
Well, thank you. I want to get to James here with the same question, basically, is when you knew that you really had something and when they started to believe it.
Well, you know, actually, we played the league game on Thursday night. You know, unlike Larry, I took my team up Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we practiced there, and we went to one game. And then the coaches decided we were going to go at night to watch the other games while they stayed in the hotel. And while we were there, you know, I said, we got to get back because these guys are going to be all over the place. You know, we got back about 9. When we got back to the hotel at 9, they were all in bed. And the coach I left behind said they'd been in bed since 8 o'clock.
Who was the coach?
It was actually George Ledge. He was just he went with us to he took care of the food. He was my football coach.
Be your enforcer.
Yeah, he just went there just to make sure everything was good. So
they were already in bed.
And I, you know.
Now, when did you play? He played Thursday night.
I played Thursday night.
Thursday night to the last game.
Last game, and you know, this is a group of robust, active guys I had on the team.
Energetic.
Yeah, then you
hormones bouncing.
Yeah, and I just knew because the whole season was set up for this. Cause we played the Ashland Invitational Tournament when they stayed in hotels, which we had to force them into the rooms at night, and you know, I just saw a lot of maturity level happen in this group. See, this group right here. When I became the head coach of Elizabethtown, they were in the 8th grade, and this group and they really overcome a lot, especially because. You know, when I first became the coach of Elizabethtown, I wasn't their first choice. You know, there were a lot of people who didn't want me to be the coach. Yeah. There were, you know, one particular family really did. I don't know the whole story. Don't care. You know,
don't get into all that.
Yeah, but you know, I know that there was a guy that was on their team that was real close to him, and the dad met with me and told me that they wanted their son to play at UK and have a chance to win a state championship. Then we look up and we play that team for the finals. And you know, and I think those guys went there with the intention of winning it. They did grow up a lot. They did come together. They did mature, and you know, and I think it became an added incentive when they saw their friend, who is a good guy. Yeah. You know, the boy is a good boy, and. There's something with the number 13 because we get down 13 points in the final game of the region. We get down 13 points in Russellville Saturday morning. We get down 13 points against Lexington Catholic at night. And you know, this was a group of young men. I mean, there was 3 of them. You know, Chris Williams, who I really thought had the best overall tournament, and Nathan Sexton, the most aggressive rebounder I've ever been around, and you know, and Nathan's coaching now, and he will become a tremendous coach someday. Head coach.
His dad was pretty aggressive too.
Yeah, and you know, Nathan and the apple don't fall too far from the tree. Yeah. You know, and me and Nathan, we had our moments. And,
yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah, and you know, they were a hard-headed group of boys, but they understand that you know, we were some hard-headed coaches too. And Antoine Barber, you know, I think what Antoine did on Saturday kind of overshadowed what Chris Williams did the entire week. Antoine, tremendous talent, but the heart and soul of the team was Chris Williams. You know, when things got down, you know, it was him, it was Chris bringing everybody together, yelling at him, hey, we're not going to lose. I mean, he screamed it the entire time for 2 weeks. You know, we started off the tournament.
Was he a senior?
He was a senior, and tremendous leader. You know, and even before the season started, you know, everyone talked about, you know, Nathan. They didn't mention Antoine's name. Nathan, they mentioned Nathan, Chris. But when Antoine, you know, stepped up, and his abilities were exceptional, you know, there was no jealousy, no animosity. You know, they just wanted to win. They didn't care who led the team, who did what, who got the praises. They wanted to win, and they did that. I remember starting off the going into the district tournament, we put the number 9 on the board. That's how many games it took to win the state tournament. You know, in the season, you would have thought with that much talent coming back, we would be blowing out teams all along. It didn't happen that way. We got down. I think we might have had 2 large wins. Most of them we were always getting down, had to fight back to win. And when they wanted to turn it on, when they wanted to play defense, they could. You know, like a lot of times they didn't want to play defense. They wanted the ball, they wanted to shoot, and but when they had to hammer down, they did it. And they realized they had to do that to win this state tournament. You know, and then the whole time, you know, as a boy growing up, as a coach, and you put yourself in that position. Never thought I would ever be in that position. I put myself in that position many times in my head, and we got a chance to get there. And the Russellville game really stands out in my mind because we're down 13 points with about 2.5 minutes left to go in the game, and we did a drill every 2 or 3 times a week where we would put ourselves 8 down against the JV with 2 minutes, and I remember us coming back. It was like us playing that game every day in practice because all of them were so calm, and they knew exactly what to do. They did it. They knew exactly who to foul, when to trap, and because we've been doing it for so long. And I don't think they realized the moment. I think they all thought they were still playing the game in practice, and I think it helped out tremendously. The leadership on the floor, the growth of these guys throughout the season, throughout the 8th grade up to now is tremendous.